This week on Entertaining People, we're making high tea for the elite hip, bringing it right home to America so that you can entertain the world one table at a time. I'm Porter William, and I've been entertaining, event planning, and cooking for over 25 years. Finally, I get to share my secrets with you. No matter if you have a one-room apartment or a grand scale estate, we'll learn how to entertain from San Francisco to the beaches of Spain, from menu planning to tablescapes. I'll teach you how to entertain from the heart. From a memory, make a memory. Join me as we entertain the world one table at a time, next on Entertaining People. Well, I promised you a hip high tea on Entertaining People today, and you're going to get it. I'm Porter William, your host, and you know what we're going to start with? Do you remember when tea time was just for the elite? This basket actually was my grandmother's, and the first time she traveled in Asia, this is the first teapot that she ever drank tea out of. We're talking like 50 or 60 years ago. Everything from a memory. I want to talk about the way tea has evolved in many different cultures today on Entertaining People, and encourage you to do this at home. Instead of a welcome cocktail when your friends have been traveling or they're just getting to your house, how about a cup of tea first? Bringing high tea back from the tea party to the extraordinary is so simple. Look at how tea has changed. Look at these great products. These are from Mark Blackwell in New York. Really funky, wild colors that are out there. We've got a black and white version, and right down in front here we have this fantastic French deco piece that I've had in my collection for years. I never polish the silver. I always like it kind of tarnished. And we're gonna add some beautiful ingredients, classic watercress and butter sandwiches. From Denmark, we're gonna have this beautiful salmon canopy egg salad, everything that makes high tea cool. Some store-bought pastries, and I'm even gonna teach you how to make your own scones today. Well, it wouldn't be high tea, or as I'm calling it, hip tea, without some good English scones. And I have a really simple recipe for you. Just get yourself a nice mixing bowl. You can just use a whisk. You don't really have to go to your mixer. And it just starts with a half a cup of heavy cream. We're just gonna simply put all of our liquid ingredients in first. 1 egg, again, that's that grade A large. A little bit of really high quality vanilla. And we're just gonna whisk these items together so that we have a nice slurry of our wet ingredients. For those of you who bake, and those of you who know me, you know I'm not a big baker, but you know the concept of having the wet and the dry together. So we're going to go ahead and incorporate our wet, that's perfect. And then next, we're going to actually incorporate our dry ingredients. You know, when I came up with the idea for this episode, I was really having memories of my mom taking her first trip to London. It's a couple cups of cake flour, and we've got a little baking soda and baking powder as well we're going to put in. As I was telling you about my mom in London, and on her first trip when I was a kid, she came back and all she talked about, a little bit of salt, is being at the hotel, the lobby in London, and her having her first high tea. She talked about how they presented each of the pieces, and they had a tea cart. And my mom has been a teetotaler her whole life. I grew up with her drinking an orange tea every single morning. I don't think she ever spent a day without a cup of tea. She never drank coffee. The rest of us drank coffee, but it was always inspiring. And then it really made me realize that high tea is really a great time in the day. Again, it was always happened between usually 4 and 5, and nobody ever stayed past 7. So that's a good rule if you're going to throw a tea party in your house, which is what we are doing today. A little bit of sugar into our wet ingredients. And you'll want to reserve just about a tablespoon of that sugar, about 2 tablespoons went in, but you'll want to reserve about a tablespoon to sprinkle the top of the scones. And then we are going to take our softened butter, already in chunks. This is 6 tablespoons, and we're going to add it. And I like to use a fork or a food processor, but I've got a large fork and a knife, and we're simply going to want to continue to integrate this. Again, 2 knives going back and forth can work very well, but you're looking for the consistency of like little green peas, little butter bumps. This is basically the same idea as a pie crust, and we're just going to continue to incorporate the fat into the dry so that we get the texture, and then we're going to let our hands do the rest. Now, once you've got it as far as you can go with the fork, what I like to do is my old family's trick of just 2 regular dinner knives, and you just crisscross the blades, and it will chop the butter up perfectly into the perfect size. Again, the food processor works really well, but scones is one of those things that I like to get kind of earthy with. You want to get your hands and your fingers in there. Once you have the consistency that you're after, just discard those knives, and we're going to add our liquid ingredients into our dry. It's really tasty. You know, you can add cranberries, blueberries, dates. There's all kinds of different fruits that work really well, dried fruits. I like a fresh blueberry if you're going to make a blueberry scone. Put all that together. And based on the consistency, you're going to increase or decrease the thickness with a little bit of your cream. You should have that reserved on the side. Looks like we're going to need about a tablespoon more here. We want a sticky dough, a dough that we can pat and roll out, not terribly dry. And you'll see with just a couple of hard beats with that fork, we're pulling it together. Okay, that's what we're looking for. I'm going to add just some flour to my chopping block. Any floured surface will do. And we're going to roll our sticky scone dough out onto the board. Old-fashioned way that everybody does it is just with your hands. Just turn that dough. Use your hand, and you're going to push the butter together. We're trying to now get the tackiness out of it. You can see how the roll's coming together. Just keep working that pile of flour. Now, one of the tricks is to keep this as cold as you can, because as the butter melts, it becomes harder and harder to roll. The great thing about a scone is that it doesn't have to roll out into a perfect ball. That looks great. My technique is to fold it over, maybe once more. You can turn it in, turn the other side in, and that's basically it. Today on Entertaining People, it's high tea made hip. From Hong Kong to the classic American pot to the beautiful French. Don't miss this show. This week on Entertaining People, we're making high tea for the elite hip, bringing it right home to America so that you can entertain the world one table at a time. Now, there's all types of traditional shapes of scones. They can be in triangles, which is what I'm going to do. We're going to add a little bit more flour to this. You can use a cookie cutter and make them round, but today I'm going to try to do a bit of a miniature scone. I just think it'd be easier that we're going to put some berry jam, some lemon curd, the store-bought products that are available. They're just dynamite today. I've only got 2 people plus myself coming to tea. A friend of mine, Susie, who is from one of the British countries, and then a good friend of mine who is also experienced in high tea, and that's Yvonne, and she's from Hong Kong, which is one of my favorite memories of tea at the Peninsula Hotel. So we have basically about 1 inch thick, and what we're going to try to do here is just cut ourselves some triangles by just going across all the way through the dough. I've got to work quick because this is getting soft. Let's kind of trim that edge off right there. You can come back to that. That might be one just for me on the side. And then what I like to do is I like to take the other angle for the triangle. It's good to clean that knife blade off safely and see if we can get right into the last one. And that works wonderfully. We've got perfect little diamonds or triangles. Let me grab my regular baking sheet. And on an ungreased baking sheet, I just want to lay these scones out. Take the edge. See those great little triangles? I think the smaller ones are easier for a tea service because everyone's going to have these little plates as opposed to the big scones, which we can buy almost at any coffee shop. They're great. See that one right there? That should be 2. Just a little bit easier. And if you don't have a huge scone, you don't have to double dip. You can grab 2 or 3 of the small ones, put your different toppings on there. We're going to do clotted cream. Again, we're going to do the lemon curd. I remember watching my father when my niece, his granddaughter, asked him if Granddaddy would go to a tea party, and they set up this whole thing, and my dad, who's this big 6'3" guy, sat on a little chair with a little girl's teacup and had high tea with his granddaughter, so it's really, really fun to do. Here's how our scones look on the sheet. We're gonna simply sprinkle a little bit of sugar over the top. Once we've got a little bit of sugar on the top of each of the scones, we're gonna put these into a 400-degree oven, let them cook for about 20 to 30 minutes. You do not want these heavily browned, like them like just a blonde color. Let's pop that in, and then we're actually gonna move on to our clotted cream. Now, there's a lot of stories and history about clotted cream, and some really great products that we're gonna just kind of combine today, but basically the clotted cream is a mixture of heavy cream with some sour cream, and I'm gonna do it in my mixer. We're gonna put just about, I'd say about a half a cup maybe of the heavy cream into the mixer, and I'm gonna kind of cheat a little bit. I'm gonna do some speed scratch in the kitchen. Creme fraiche, which as you know is an ingredient that I love, is kind of the French version of a sour cream. I'm gonna just put basically about 2 very large tablespoons in there. And then I'm going to add some regular sour cream. Now, clotted cream was originally created by actually letting the milk and the cream rest. And usually it was an open pie pan. It was unpasteurized cow's milk, and they'd let it sit out for several hours. And what would happen is that the clots would rise to the top, the cream, and they would scoop that off, and that's what clotted cream was. Look at that, there's a little bit of that. That's good stuff. I love that sour cream. Okay, so we're just gonna go on a slow speed, and I'm gonna add the thick creams here, a little bit more sour cream. You wanna be able to spoon this out. It's not a pouring cream. We can put it on our scones and our pastries, and I actually like it in my tea. I know that's unorthodox, but let's just give this a quick whip. Now this is fully incorporated, and when you get the clotted cream, I just like to add a little bit of sugar, a little bit of sweetness to it. Just about 2 seconds, and we're done. You've now made the famous British clotted cream. That's that perfect consistency that we're looking for. Now I'd just like to take a spoon at the very end, make sure that it's all combined. We want all those great flavors. And I'm using just one of the teacups for the mini that we're going to be doing today as a service item. And let me just show you how I'm going to pour that in there. I don't have a separate vessel. I know if I had a formal tea set, they would probably have a separate vessel for the cream. But I'm just going to pop this into the fridge. It's going to chill up, and we're going to have our clotted cream. My guests are going to think it's probably intentional, but it's also going to be easy for me to serve because I can just take this beautiful clotted cream, put it in the fridge, chill it up. Don't go away, because when you come back, we're going to do the savory part of our hip high tea right here on Entertaining People. Watercress sandwiches, cucumber, some egg salad, a few of my favorites. I'm mixing it up, some deviled ham, salmon. You're going to love it. Don't go anywhere. I'm Porter William. I'll see you right back here in just a minute. The entire series of Entertaining People is now available on DVD. To order, go to entertainingpeople.com. From paella parties to formal dinners, brunches to beach parties, the menus are endless. This series is a perfect gift idea and a great reference tool, so you can throw all the parties we do on the show in your own home. Log on to entertainingpeople.com and click on DVD, or email dvd@entertainingpeople.com. Today on Entertaining People, it's high tea made hip. From Hong Kong to the classic American pot to the beautiful British. Don't miss this show. Our traditional British scones are ready. I can smell them. They only take just a couple of minutes. And if you have a convection oven, by the way, literally about 10 minutes. Look at those. That's exactly what we're after. Nice and tender. I hate a dry scone. I tend to undercook them just the slightest bit. Our sugar's on top. We're just gonna let those sit there and cool. We want those at room temperature, obviously. And we're gonna move on to the savory part of our meal, which are all the fantastic finger sandwiches. Now, I know this isn't very hip as far as nutrition is concerned, but all tea time sandwiches are butter sandwiches. So we're going to show you some of the ins and outs of buttering. First of all, you definitely want to have warm butter. This is cold butter, and with one quick spread, you can see that it tears the bread. That's not going to work for you. However, when I'm using some room temperature butter, I mean at this consistency, not melted, but completely soft, just a regular, good old American white piece of bread, and you want to fully cover the butter all the way to the edges. We are going to, in fact, trim the edges because it makes it look nicer when you have a nice tea service, and we're gonna have squares and triangles. And I just basically got a standard cookie sheet, and I'm gonna fill it up. And what I like to do when I'm making sandwiches like this that all have a similar base, in this case, the same bread and some soft butter, I like to just do an assembly line. So we'll move from one to the other to a final finished tray. What's great about a high tea episode is virtually everything holds in the refrigerator. These sandwiches can be made hours in advance, if not the night before. Now we do have a cucumber sandwich, and there is a little bit of water in the cucumber, so you want to make sure that that doesn't get soggy. But otherwise, I would say you're safe. Just cover them up, put it in the fridge, and right before your guests are ready, you'll be able to pull out the entire sheet, all set to go. So our first traditional tea sandwich, I actually had a friend who lent me a book called The Little Book of Teas, and it's a cucumber sandwich. I'm using a French mandolin. If you have a very fine slicer, you can go ahead and use one. Now with the mandolin, safety always first. For the short items, you'll want to use this safety guard, and that guard goes right over the top, and you push and pull the mandolin very easy. The other safety issue that I like is I always use a mandolin inside another vessel, inside a cookie sheet, so that you've got some protection from it sliding. I'm using a beautiful English cucumber. Look at those fantastic colors right there. Now, why? Less seeds, less water, and if you like, you can actually stripe it. It's a simple technique of perhaps just taking a peel in a couple different areas. That does remove a little bit of the bitterness, but I kind of like the color on there, so I would say that's good enough. We're only going to do about 6 to 10 of these. With your hand down, safely on top, you're just going to mandolin those beautiful paper thin slices. And like I said, there's only 3 to 4 of us today, so a couple sandwiches are going to go a long way. You can see that flowing through. Now what's great about a mandolin is that you can actually adjust the thickness, but I just want to give you an idea. That's how thin. You want this crisp little flavor coming through. I'll finish that. Once you see that end coming in sight, get away from that blade, don't push it. Don't be a hero in the kitchen. We don't need Band-Aids. Take your mandolin, fold it up, set it aside, and we have our first ingredients. Look at that, they just absolutely fan out. That's fantastic. So here's our butter, and we're gonna do lovely cucumber sandwich. Traditionally, again, butter as the base, but you'll see me do a couple things. I said we're kind of bringing high tea home or making high tea hip on this episode of entertaining people. I also like perhaps just a dash of horseradish, even a squeeze of lemon on this can work, some salt perhaps, just to give it a little bit of flavor. Now, each one of these is going to be cut into 4s. So that's going to give us 4 at the end, and we are simply going to take our top, we're going to cover it, give it a push, we're going to move over to our board, again, cover it, push, move over to our board. I'm going to leave these there as we move on to our egg salad tea sandwich. I use a very simple couple hard-boiled eggs, a little bit of mayo. I just chop up the eggs and add a little bit of salt and pepper. This recipe is so simple, there really is no recipe. Throw about 2 large tablespoons of mayo into a bowl. Now, if you'd like to add another dimension to this, you can add, in this case, we could add a little horseradish, we could add a little creme fraiche on it. And then instead of using an egg slicer, I just typically take my knife and I just slice our eggs right into the bowl. I like a chunky egg salad. There are really cool stories about the spinsters of San Francisco and how they would meet every day for high tea at the Compass Rose. Every city usually has a great room with a great tea, and I really think it's about bringing it home. So there you have a simple egg salad. I'm going to use a fork to mix this up. We'll start with our spoon, get our mayo off there, and we're just going to blend up the egg salad. Mayo and egg, that's a great flavor. That looks perfect. Let's just give that the teeniest taste. Like I said, mayo, a little bit of egg, salt, pepper, and you're all set. Now, we don't have butter on the egg salad because there's already some mayo in there, but let's spread that evenly out. On the face right there. you're at home, we've done this before, you'll know to make as many as you need based on how many guests you're having. This week on Entertaining People, we're making high tea for the elite hip, bringing it right home to America so that you can entertain the world one table at a time. The entire series of Entertaining People is now available on DVD. To order, go to entertainingpeople.com. From paella parties to formal dinners, brunches to beach parties, the menus are endless. This series is a perfect gift idea and a great reference tool, so you can throw all the parties we do on the show in your own home. Log on to entertainingpeople.com and click on DVD or email dvd@entertainingpeople.com.